Welcome, Pat. I can't even come and shake your hand today. All right, good afternoon, everyone. As you notice, as you can see by council, we're all social distancing, and I just wanted to share something that I'd received from Municipal World. It steps to good council communication during COVID-19. And I thought it was really important just to share a couple of them. So number one, they're telling council we have to stay focused on the main problem. The first problem is the need to keep our people safe and healthy, and that includes the public and our employees. And the second is to managing the economic challenge through COVID-19 is presenting, which is what 5 of our councillors got involved and have helped create an economic task force, and Tony will be giving more information on that. The second thing that they said is the World Health Organization advises be fast, have no regrets. Perfection is the enemy of the good when it comes to emergency management. So that's a huge one, because this council and administration have moved very, very fast. And so compliments to all of you, because obviously we're doing what they're recommending. And they give us 15 points, but those are just a couple of the third one they say is frame and contain the crisis. And that's practice social distancing, just stay home, wash your hands, flatten the curve. We need your health. We need our health care to manage the demand. So, you know what, I just want to commend everybody, because obviously this is what's happening, this demonstrating leadership and compassion. So congratulations to council, to administration, and to all of our team here at the town of Drumheller, and everybody out there who is helping, as Dr. Ram says today, what's it called? Plank the curve instead of flatten the curve. So thank you, everybody, and appreciate what you are all doing, and this too shall pass one day. Let's just keep that in our mind. So I would like to swear our Tony Locker in as the council deputy mayor here for the next little bit.
I, Tony Locker, do swear that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute according to the law the office of councillor for the town of Drumheller, so help me God. Sworn before me, the town of Drumheller, province of Alberta, 6th day of April, 2020.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, and can I get I don't need a motion to adopt the agenda at committee of whole? Mike, no? Good. Okay, so attaches the agenda. And so now we will turn it over to Daryl. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to see all of your faces in the flesh now. So, well, except for Tom, but other than that, everyone else great. So, anyway, just I was gonna, before I turn it over to Darwin, just kind of give you a bit of a perspective of sort of my last 4 weeks. So, for those who don't know, in TV land, I was in California for a couple of weeks vacation. And so the stuff that we're seeing here today with our COVID-19 is stuff that I saw some of it down in the States. And if we think that it's serious here, California is in a lot bigger problem than we have. And I think I just saw that they're recommending that you don't even leave your house for the next 7 days. That was this afternoon's message. Yesterday's message was everyone must wear a mask when they go outside. Nobody outside, or no one gathering unless it's your immediate family living in your household. So we're definitely in interesting and challenging times. And as to iterate Mayor Kohlberg's comment was about planking the curve, we have to make sure we minimize this. And we know it's going to be a long, long journey on this, and we have to all work together to make sure we get through it all and come out the other side. So anyway, just wanted to give everyone a little bit of a update on our response of what we've been doing for the last 20 some days within the town, and I'm going to turn it over to Darwin to kind of give that update, please.
Thanks, Daryl. Everybody hear me all right? Excellent. So COVID-19 is very grave, very serious. We've leaned ahead very hard in Drumheller. It's making a difference. We need to be sure that we clean, so we break the chain of COVID virus. And that's pretty much our defense, along with 2 meters of physical distance. And we want to use 2 meters for fun, or do it the Spock way, or whatever we got to do. But 2 meters is really important. We, exactly. So thanks. Excellent. So I've got some presentations that we're going to have different folks speak to, and give an overview and an update as to what our efforts are. And stay home if you can stay home. Just stay home. Samuel L. Jackson, if you go on the internet, has a great way of saying stay home. So please, please, please stay home, folks, if you can at all possible. Keep your 2 meters distance from each other, please, 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 and clean. We're probably at this for at least 150 days. It's chilling to think of it. So sustainability and how we can carry on and stay ahead of it is very important. So I'm going to ask Michael McLean to go over an update that we've shared with communities around us. Mayor Kohlberg has led an initiative with the surrounding communities throughout East Central Alberta to just share some of the successes, some of the ideas that we've had. I'll then do a bit of an update on our response update for the community. I'm going to have Greg Peters talk about our roster, and then we're going to ask Dr. Ram to talk about some of the curves that we're trying to plank and just what progress we've made and where we're at. So it's just been an absolute pleasure to see the staff, the leadership, the contractors step up and make this real and get Drum moving forward. So it's incredible efforts in absolutely business unusual how we're doing this. So
Fred says you're barely audible.
barely audible. Okay, maybe we'll pull this thing closer somehow. Is that better, Fred?
Yep.
And Mike, are you ready to? Okay. So bear with us a moment. In everything we do, going forward, we're using a lot of different electronic media. So we're making friends with the new way of doing stuff, and it is going to mean a lot of screens and things like Zoom and Exchange and Teams and all manner of meeting platforms, Facebook and FaceTime, and there's a lot of changes that we're all adapting to. So bear with us. Aaron, walk us through the. So
Okay.
just reference where we use this.
Okay, so this was a presentation that was given to our municipal partners meeting, which is about roughly a dozen or so municipalities, some representatives from special areas. And so we were kind of given a breakdown of our wins, our victories. And so this first one is the social distancing markers across the community. These are our giant messaging signs. Yeah, these are the installation of sneeze guards, which they became quite a demanded item, quite popular. And here are the self-isolating notices for people who don't want to answer the door for a delivery or whatever it is because they're self-isolating.
Sorry, just closer to the mic again.
Okay. So, and here are some of the examples of the social distancing policies. And what I think was a big victory for us was when businesses were proactively contacting us to get the signs displayed in their businesses. Here are our drag and squeegee team who are doing a fantastic job of cleaning. Oh, this was about the shopping hour for seniors to make sure they have opportunity to, to shop when they're not around other people. Here's some more of our communications messaging campaigns. The flushing of the wipes was especially pertinent considering we had a blockage about a week ago or so. Here's a video of our ministerial advisory. This was, I think, some of our video updates. Yeah, this is part of kind of the security protocol, if you will, what goes on in the EOC. Cleaning. Here is the launch of our dedicated COVID-19 website. This is the launch of our Drumcare's Twitter account or hashtag campaign. Yeah, and that's it.
Thanks, Mike. Much appreciated. If you can bring the other deck up, we'll talk about some of the more formal situations. So we're in day 24. We've had the state of local emergency in place since March 13, Friday the 13th. We will be doing that renewal again Thursday night, another council meeting to do a renewal. And then what we'll attempt to do is get it changed so that it fits up with Monday nights, so we don't have to have that special meeting. So that'll get us in cadence again for the next long while.
Well, they're getting that. I'll just let you all know that the meetings within different municipalities has been really, really incredible. We meet every Thursday. We just share ideas, what they've done, what we're doing. And it's been really inspiring for us to realize how far we are and where we're at and what we've accomplished. And we've actually shared a lot of you've sent pretty much all of our information out to different municipalities to let them, rather than them reinvent and start again. This is just our way of helping those smaller municipalities catch up with us. So it's been a great experience.
Great. All set, Mike? So COVID update. Our objectives are to minimize the impact of COVID on Drumheller residents and the local economy. Coordinate our town of Drumheller response. Safety and mental well-being of our staff is a priority. Social distancing and remote work options utilized where possible and practical. And on that, we've gone to great efforts to splitting the herd, if you will, and relocating to formerly shuttered facilities that still had some of the technology available, making other places into workplaces so that we can split up and flatten or plank the curve. Provide situational updates to the Drumheller Emergency Management Agency, 1300, we've been doing that every day, and communicate updates to town staff through a daily newsletter to staff, and every Monday we've been having a town-wide staff calls. Next slide, please. So this all started apparently in Wuhan, China, December 31st. More information is becoming available, that maybe it started a little earlier than that, but that's when it was recognized. The Provincial Operations Center elevated to level 2 of 4 levels, 4 being the highest, on January 30th. Town of Drumheller had meetings in January and February regarding COVID and just keeping an eye on it and being situationally aware. And on March 13th, activated the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center. The Provincial Operations Center elevated to level 3 on March 14th, and due to a declaration of a public health emergency on March 17th, the Provincial Operations Center elevated to level 4. March 19th was the first death announced in Alberta. Town of Drumheller declared a state of local emergency, or SOL as we refer to it, on March 20th, and approved $500,000 for the response from the Operating Contingency Fund. Town of Drumheller renewed that SOL March 27th and again on April 3rd. The overall situation, our Town of Drumheller staff is our top priority for both safety and well-being. And they're really doing a tremendous job of looking out for each other and helping each other up the hill as we go on this long marathon with what we started with is a sprint, but we've got to a point where we're going to be able to reasonably be sustainable. We implemented immediately Town of Drumheller staff on-call policies to ensure resources are available to respond. The Emergency Operations Center is practicing physical distancing, using the Teams app for collaboration and using remote work options. We're ensuring effective resource deployment and use of tools. Greg will speak to that in a bit. Trying to anticipate council concerns on the unique impacts of the pandemic and actively address the situation. And on that, I need everybody that's out in TV land or otherwise know that the Council of the Town of Drumheller, I've worked a few of these events, and when they're forest fires or they're floods or they're things like that, you can see what's coming and you deal with it and move forward. This one we don't know. And it's just been incredible to work with all of you on the leadership and opportunity to try and conquer this. So just brilliant. Next slide. So some of our wins, over 6,000 hours of work with no incidents, safety first. It's just incredible. We moved immediately from the recommended 250 mass gatherings down to 50 day 2. Our EOC technology, we made sure that it was up and running quick so that we could remote in and out for the meetings, knowing that we would probably have to do that very quickly. Our sneeze guards were day 3. My social space footprints were out in town very quick. In enabling and getting ahead of the curve or flattening the curve, we need to do things in a very responsible way and watch out for the money. So what we're doing is, if we can do things that were planned already in the budget or that save us time and make the municipality more effective coming out the other end, we're moving those to the front. So e-transfer and online form capabilities to allow for remote transactions. If we have to shut down town hall, we can keep other business going for the community. The food bank, the Salvation Army, rather than try and stand up our own, we've just augmented their resources and are working with them to increase up to a couple hundred on-site boxes available. Community reporting. Boy, this one's been great, and Drumheller's doing a super good job. Unacceptable behavior is unacceptable. So at the outset, you had to self-isolate for 14 days if you were returning from out of country, which of course Daryl had to do, our town solicitor had to do, and many others in the community. We have aggressively pushed that forward to try and change social behavior. It's working. Our social distancing, now called physical distancing, again is very important as well. Squeegee crews, having the folks out there washing the super mailboxes, cleaning up the doors, hitting the gas pumps. Yeah, that simple soap breaks down the lipids or the fats that create the coronavirus, and just good old dish soap does an incredible job on it. We're working with a local supplier that just jumped up right away at the start. Sage, making hand sanitizer, local product, local made. We're using lots of it, of course. But that's the kind of behavior we have. We're a bit of an island here in that nobody can really come to the rescue. They're all doing what they have to do in their municipalities. Next. Tony will speak to the Economic Recovery Task Force, the community coming together. Nothing will be more important coming out the other side of this than what's the economy look like and how do we put that back together. Town of Drumheller Child Care program was implemented, I think, day 4. Community Connection Resource Tool launched March 20th, day 7 of the OC. I invite you to go to the drumheller.ca to find our website and find a lot of these tools. We've made certain that all staff have emails now and are on the Teams system. I talked already about staff communications, the Kick COVID Kids stickers. Fantastic job there, and we've got more work to do there to get some contests going to see what those stickers might look like. Marshmallow cleaning crew, the ladies from the front office that went out and were doing the cleaning in the community, self-identified that they were the marshmallow crew, all bundled up in their Tyvek suits. Just incredible. We've launched the Drum Cares campaign, day 3, and self-isolation and help okay signs are deployed for people to put in their front window to say they're okay or turn it around and say help. Mayor Colbert already described, and Mike went through the slide decks of sharing with our regional partners. Elevator safety flyers have been distributed to all the manors and lodges. Property and tax relief deferrals, March 23, day 10. Our incident action plans over the next 7 days is safety of our employees at top, Economic Recovery Task Force, ensuring everyone is called within 24 hours that needs the supports that Tony will explain. We're finalizing our food bank plan to be sustainable and long-term with the next 150 days. And we're determining masks, when to deploy, who needs them, and how to keep our inventory up. Our key messaging will continue to be that COVID-19 is going to come to Drumheller. We just don't know when. It will be identified exclusively in town. Our priority is to communicate and practice good hygiene and keep cleaning. We're going to continue to ask everyone, stay home and maintain the 2-meter distancing if you must leave home. And that's just totally contrary to how we operate as Canadians, but we've got to change that behavior. Unacceptable behavior is absolutely unacceptable. We can come up with all the rules we want, but if we're not all in this together, making the unacceptable unacceptable, we can't enforce our way through this. We've just got to change and help each other. Go to drumheller.ca, and our 3-word pledge as we move forward in this as an EOC is we're going to be careful, compassionate, and caring, because Drum cares. Greg, could I have you come and address the roster and how we're attempting to get a handle on how we're going to keep the staff rolling through this?
Good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, looking for the right words. Public emergency, unlike anything else. It can't be seen, can't be heard, can't smell it. Unlike a flood or an earthquake or a hurricane. People have the visible evidence to motivate them, to want to take part, and the variety of emotions and responses are acceptable as long as we're all going the same direction. The early support of council, in my opinion, authorizing on call and the use of funds went a great length to proving to staff that this was indeed important, this was indeed an emergency, and we needed their buy-in as well. Because as I say, and I've used the analogy from different movies where people don't believe in something's happening until they see it. To motivate and to get people to accept people are doing jobs and are rostering and the various things that have gone in, and a lot of them aren't in the book in any incident command or anything that anybody's been taught. A lot of the things that we're making work aren't necessarily referable, but the rostering is meant to make all the resources, because of the unknown extent. And I've learned tremendous amounts from Dr. Ram in my research that I do early every morning for several hours. Because we don't know the extent, we can't, a question today in the staff information sessions was, well, when's the end date for this? And it isn't like we can assign or we can, thankfully get a timeline from a river engineer that will tell us when things will recede or when we anticipate, and give us people a bit of perspective and ray of hope, I guess, to when this thing will abate. Rostering in this is like almost at the outset of a large military exercise where you aren't sure what the extent of the resistance you're going to meet is, so therefore we make our resources and people's ability and time try to place it in the most useful method possible. You follow what I'm getting at? So we have the resources to meet on head on and with the tools available to us. As I said, Dr. Ram's advice has been indispensable, and basically to learn that as much soap and as much cleanliness and as much dedication to this and to keep up people's energy for all these different tasks we're doing are all directed in the same way. So the rostering continues, and it is a group effort, and it is meant completely so we have the resources. People do have the on-call stipend that is offered to them. We do have people on standby, doing our best to make the most of what we have to engage. I'm not trying to sound corny, I mean this, to engage the threat ahead of us. And that's what we're working towards. At the outset, to get everything kick-started, especially with an enemy you can't see, is bit tumultuous to get everybody motivated, slotted, understand, and as I understand what is going on. It's okay for Darwin and I to say to people, we've seen this before. We haven't seen this, but we've seen this this energy, this movement to get everything set up. We've seen this before, but not in the fashion that we've seen it for the COVID-19. And it is a daily, sometimes minute by minute concern that we are doing everything that can be done with the medical and scientific advice available, with the resources we have available, to put as much to the fight that we can. We are working with other agencies, such as Darwin mentioned, the reporting, in as making the best use of our time, the softest approach to people, but the bottom line is some people just haven't abided by the guidelines and the asks made of them by the provincial government, by Dr. Hinshaw. And that is not only, as we've heard it, I'm sure everybody's heard it many, many times, that you're not just putting your own neck on the line, you could be unawares and quite innocently putting somebody else at peril of getting sick. And that's a terrible, terrible thing. So education is huge. Many local officials, Mr. Sampson of the Calgary Emergency Management Agency, somewhat hesitant to want to charge people for some of the violations, and I totally, I know Darwin and Michelle know him very well, and I'm totally on board with that, and I get it. And the sanctions announced by the government, are meant only as a last resort, because basically what we have is our ordinary good citizens and good people that may not be totally aware of the implications of them not adhering to the policies. But we are, and it continues, and our work will continue, and it'll continue tonight. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can.
Thank you, Greg. And you have done some incredible stuff over the last 3 weeks, so I applaud you for everything you've been doing.
So one of the things on the roster change is, as we're able to brief Daryl up, now that he's back and in the flesh, we'll look to getting Darwin and Greg off and out the door for a couple days as well in the very near future, so that we can keep the fresh horses going and get Daryl entirely up to speed on where we're at. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ram to come forward and, or from there, and just, or no, I guess you got to come over here, please, Dr. Ram, to use the microphone and give us a bit of an overview, brief, I'd say, but nevertheless, show us where we're at on the journey forward.
Thank you, everyone. So I'll show this one first. The CBC actually came out with this morning, so it gives a good glimpse of what it's been for the last month in Alberta, and it gives a good sense of when certain things happened along the way. And this was the one marker that I added because this is you. This is what Drumheller did and came together and decided that this was a serious enough pandemic crisis to warrant action a lot sooner than other places around Alberta, but around the country, around the world that we're actually seeing. So the Premier and Dr. Hinshaw both gave their updates this afternoon, and it was a different tone, so I don't know if we weren't able to see it, then I'd probably watch it later. Alberta will be presenting their data, just like Ontario did and Premier Ford did on Friday. They'll be presenting their data, some of it tomorrow, and then a lot more of it on Wednesday. And Premier Kenney's words were the serious and grave debt that we'll be presenting it might be taken by Albertans as unexpected, even though because they've been saying they've been doing quite well. But the nature of the data is it's serious enough. We've all seen that the mass use and everything has taken flight in the media, and that's because the U.S. Surgeon General decided that it was something that they needed to do in a pragmatic way and move forward and give their citizens the best protection, the best armor that they can. It was confirmed by Alberta this afternoon. They are going to take that same route, as well as the Chief Medical Officer of Canada also made that statement as of this morning. So, and some things that are probably going to be a telltale sign of how this is going to last quite a bit longer than expected is that the temporary layoffs was increased from 60 to 120 days. So that's going to be retroactive. So that already takes us almost to August, when they think this is all going to keep going past that anyway. He also mentioned a few things that we didn't have data on yet. I didn't know up until today what the exact numbers as far as age groups go. I did not know that there were 3 infants with cases in Alberta. I did not know that there was a teenager that was in the ICU. This is data that they're just started opening up to everybody today. So, and we'll see how that comes forward. Now, all of that is my usual doom and gloom, but Drumheller is doing incredibly well. You guys have stepped forward in a way that is really leading the pack, and I think it goes to show what everybody, not just in this room, but the community has to offer as far as wanting to make it through this. We have cases, we don't know it. The testing is something that's a problem. Premier Kenney acknowledged that. WHO says we need to test many, many, many more people than we can. We just can't. So it's a practical thing. I have no doubt that if any jurisdiction had the ability to, they would. We were down to 263 tests in the province, so this is down 4,000 in the last just few days. So all the other avenues that they're trying to do over and above of the social distancing is going to be very important, and I think you're implementing that in the fastest way possible. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Ram.
So, Your Worship, that would be the report of our emergency management team, and again, I can't stress how proud I am of the whole team and the incredible work that's being done by both contractors, town staff, union representatives, just making it all work instead of finding ways not to make it work. So it's incredible.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't need to, is it anybody else burning to go? No. A comment first, and then a couple of questions. I think it is absolutely safe to say that it's way too soon for a victory lap of any kind. But some things have to be completely and absolutely factually acknowledged. And the reason that we are better prepared, have stood up our emergency operations center so quickly, have made plans and preparations and secured resources and supplies many times better than communities many times our size, is due in very large part to two people who are both in this room, who have been very kind in their passing along of praise. But if Dr. Ram had not met with the mayor on March 12th, who then called an emergency meeting of the Emergency Management Committee for the very next day, and laid things out in a way for us that had not been being done so in the national media or the briefings that were being made available to elected officials, we would have never been able to move so quickly. And so this community, this team owes him a tremendous debt of gratitude for that. As well, I'm not sure how much has to be said to get this through to people, but we accidentally had a world-class emergency management specialist in town already working on a project for us. And the expertise that was able to be pulled into play by him and his team so incredibly quickly at, again, an accidental time when our normal chief of things was out of the country, that is due to you, Darwin. And I hope that people understand that those two elements coming together is what started things off in the right place. And last but not least, you at home can't see his giant Wizard of Oz-like head on the screen, but Councillor Makowiecki was integral in sounding the alarm back in early January about what was going on in China and wondering about what the town of Drumheller was doing to get ready for what would eventually come here. And he too needs to be thanked for that. So Fred, I applaud you, I salute you. As far as questions goes, back in the very early days of this, council made some policy decisions that were designed to both protect our large team and unequivocally demonstrate how much they are valued. How's morale? How good a job did we do at communicating those two things? These extraordinary ways in which we're guaranteeing your compensation and increasing your compensation and providing you with additional resources because we're about to ask you to do things you never signed up for. Did we do a good job of communicating how much they're valued, how much we want to protect them? Is the morale okay?
So I'd like to answer yes, but it's never enough. In the absolute uncertain times where things are literally changing by the minute, we're having to adapt, and the staff have just incredibly adapted to that. We're into this 3 weeks and just going hard, and they're tired. And we're working with them, we're asking the unbelievable of them, but we're making it work, and they're there. And yep, there's some stress points here and there, and everybody has a different ability to adapt to pressures and stress. We're creaking, and we're watching out for each other, and it's really, really important that that continue to happen. I'd like to just illustrate one small thing where the timesheets are going around, and Drumhellers use timesheets where you pass the paper around and sign it off. And we just, whoa, that's something that could come in. So everybody adapted like last night in hours to stand up a new system of doing it. So just incredible response by the team. The water treatment plant staff self-isolating so that they can make sure that the water's safe for babies to drink and that we have enough to help the fire guys put wet stuff on red stuff. Just countless stories, and I'm always rude to single out one over another, but it's just incredible what they're doing, and the leadership that's started at this table, terrible pun, but it's infectious, and the rest of the staff really feel it.
And the last one for me, question-wise, are we making the most of opportunities to put a finer point on things than sometimes our official communications can happen? And by that I mean, there's a number of elements that have wound up being focal points for local pressure on, are we doing the right things? And you gave us some great answers last week. Take just one example of those large community signs, which, assuming the world continues to work the way it always has, seem so redundant because those messages are everywhere. But that's the mistake. That's the mistake right there, is that everyone's using the paradigm of the world working the way it used to work. Those signs are no longer redundant. They're the only way to communicate if the internet stops working. I don't know about you guys, but my cell phone has gone for hours with periods of no service. My internet television is constantly being interrupted. There is all kinds of different ways in which all the systems that were established beforehand could not have foreseen the level of population being at home using their phone, tablet, internet TV, times 4 people, all at the same time, all day, every day. And so asking people to stop looking at what we're doing through a normal paradigm of how things used to work, I wonder if council needs to take a firmer role in putting a finer point on some of those things to help people understand that if you're asking why did you do that kind of question based on, we didn't do that during the flood, we didn't do that during the last flu or whatever, that none of those things count anymore. Can you speak to that in terms of communications? I mean, certainly public relations and keeping the electorate well informed is one thing, but also I wonder sometimes about whether or not we're being as firm as we need to. And I will soften that by saying I would also like to acknowledge the fact that I'm fully aware of a number of people in this community. In fact, the overwhelming majority of the people that I talk to and communicate with through all the different portals are taking all the different isolation protocols and all of the hand washing very, very seriously. But at the same time, are we being too nice about some stuff?
So as vulgar as it is, the Samuel L. Jackson video, I strongly encourage people to have a look at that, because I don't think we can have our comms team send that out. But we do need to we do need to be stern, and we do need to be very pointed. And it's 2 meters, stay home, social distance, and clean, clean, clean. Complacency is what's going to get us. Okay? We're doing a good job. We don't have a lot of cases. What's the big deal? That's what's going to get us. Complacency. And we just need to be vigilant and help each other be vigilant. There's stuff, whether it was the timesheets or whether it's things in East Cooley, or there's maybe stuff in Midland Vale. Yeah, bang us with the reminders. Let us know where we were missing something. go on the website with Alberta Public Health and rat out the people that are unacceptably behaving, and just be ruthless and push. That's the only way we're going to keep our community where it's at right now.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Thanks, Darwin. So I've had a bunch of people come to me in response to accessing the food bank. As I've never been in that position myself, I don't know where to direct them other than the Salvation Army. And I also don't know if they have to meet certain requirements. I thought I read something that the requirements that used to be in place to gain access to that have been waived. I'm just wondering if you can put it out to the world that's listening as to how people can access it and what if any, measures there are that they have to meet to be able to do so. And then for my other counselor hat, I'm just wondering if we have any stats on the demand on our food bank, if we have seen a sharp increase to people accessing it, or? Fred, can't hear you. Can you just speak louder? Sorry, Fred. So Fred, my question was just in regards to access to the food bank and how to do so.
Yes, thank you. Great question. So what we've done is adopted the food bank of the Salvation Army that exists in Drumheller. It's got a long established history. They have their criteria, of course, that they use to screen. We'll start with that as the situation worsens economy-wise, and we're able to garner more supplies and more food. We'll be able to react to what the demand is. I was just looking at I think about the third draft today on our food plan for going forward. Access it through the Salvation Army rather than recreate the wheel, and we're going to continue to examine the protocols for accessing that.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to make sure that if somebody was in need, nobody's getting turned away because of too stringent of requirements.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. And then if I may, I got a couple more. So I was speaking to a client today from Calgary, and he'd mentioned to me that a lot of people in the Calgary and Airdrie area are not following the social distancing as much as you see here within the town of Drumheller. One example was he was in the Walmart Airdrie, I believe it was. They've got the lines marked on the ground, but there was nobody maintaining or mentioning to people to, hey, keep your distance. So I'm sure all of us have heard quite often about individuals from surrounding areas coming to shop in the town of Drumheller. Are we thinking of implementing some measures to perhaps stem this ebb and flow, or is it business as usual or as our new normal?
Yeah, so it'd be pretty drastic for us to close up town. We've got barricades in place. I'm sure lots of people have seen them, but it becomes an enforcement measure. And probably my biggest concern is not necessarily those coming to town, but those that are leaving town and going out of town and coming back, where they're getting exposed to a great big herd, and we got a small herd here that we're trying to manage. So I think that's obvious. I don't know that it ended up on social media, and maybe in the spirit of Samuel L. Jackson it should. We had some mischievous people change one of our message board signs that asked those from out of town not to come to town. And they used different words for that. We have a situation in East Cooley that we've changed up the message board to say permanent residents only, in that the chief medical officer of health has said, don't go to your summer cabin. Well, there's a lot of those in East Cooley, so we're really working to discourage that kind of behavior. Unacceptable behavior is unacceptable, and we need to do it as a whole of community approach, because we don't have enough bylaw enforcement to stay on top of it. So the more that we can make 2 meters, the right, stay home. Why are you visiting Drumheller? Please stay home. That's where we got to be.
Gotcha. Thanks, Darwin. And then one more, if I may. So when it comes to business continuity plans, is there availability for other people in this community to get involved by online access to help with those? Or where are we at in the planning stages of after that 150 days to hit the ground and be running?
Yeah, so we're working with the business community, and Councillor Lacker's going to speak to that in a bit. And I think we're really leaning into and quite forward forecasting some of those remedies and availing ourselves of some of the cash that's going to come available from the other orders of government. Yeah, we got to get our nose in the trough first. We've got to be able to help our people get through it. A lot of folks open businesses not because they were an accountant, but they had a passion for something. That's why we need the business community helping them stand up now and again later when it's time to reopen. So we really pushed with a close, clone, and cooperate campaign that those businesses that have closed, we want them get back in there, get it ready to open, and we'll open in a hurry. So I'll leave the other comments to Councillor Locker.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Tom?
Yeah. One thing that I would like to just touch on for a moment, and Greg kind of brought it up a little bit, was that this is kind of like a military campaign. I've had the opportunity to go to the EOC and see the massive organization, the incredible number of people and resources and equipment that we are using to, can you still hear me, Bob? that we are using to battle this situation. And I just wondered, like, I've been here 45 years, gone through a couple of souls, and I don't know, you've been here longer than I have. Could you think of any other situation in this community where we've had a more massive mobilization than what we've got now? Because I certainly can't.
I can only imagine the First and Second World War and perhaps the Spanish flu epidemic that was on the heels of that would be the only things that I know of that would be of equal. The challenge we have is nobody can see the enemy. Nobody sees the forest fire, the flood, the freezing rain, the ice storm, whatever. So we just need everybody to just realize that we got to kick COVID and clean, clean, and clean. And soap is king. It works. Disinfectant helps, but soap is what cuts it down. So we've got to just really push that clean, clean, clean.
Sorry. Christine?
Thanks so much, Darwin. I wanted to say that list of wins and showing them all on there was really, really helpful. I know I've had a lot of people asking me, what all have you guys done? And it's like, like, where do you even start on things? And so having that list, showing that list, I know everybody online at home can go back, pause, read that. And it's really good to actually see those things and then say, oh yeah, I have seen the squeegee squad out. I have seen these things happening. So thank you for that list. That's amazing.
Anybody else? Jay?
Just quickly, if I could, Your Worship, I want to return to Councillor Hanson-Zacharyk's question around things being done differently in different private sector establishments. I think it's really fair to say that they're adopting at a rate that's they've never seen before, that they're honestly doing their level best. I was at the largest retailer in town today. They had set up a barricade system to measure the number of people being allowed in the store. They had dedicated staff out front explaining to you how things had changed for your shopping experience. They had dedicated directional lanes that you were not to differ from, and they had staff on site to tell you when you had. They had absolutely crystal clear guidelines for social distancing at checkout, and their cashiers were enforcing it. And so I know it's very, very difficult for people to adapt to all this change. I know that not all of them are adapting at the same rate, but it is really fair to say that a good chunk of our private sector is absolutely leaning in. I know that's the buzzword for the day, and making it clear that they're doing their level best to protect the people who are who need their service. So there are some incredibly good things happening in town, and it won't matter where the customer comes from. They're going to be told to follow the rules while they're here.
Anybody else? I just want to make one comment that came up to me today, actually, a couple times. Is so we're coming into Good Friday and Easter, and families want to get together. And I know that the message is social distance, just with the particular family. I'm just wondering if we should really pounce on that with comms, and I'm sure you're already on it, Michelle. I just wanted to just reminded myself while I was sitting here. Also, there's, I just want to make a note that the Salvation Army is looking for 1,000 cans of soup. So if anybody's wants to donate or whatever, if you can, it is on the Drumheller Alert Facebook page, if you can share that, because they do need that. And I just want to put a shout out, and I'm sure Tony will, but to the Chamber of Commerce for stepping up and all the work that they've done in the business, on the business side of things. So I'm sure you'll talk about that. But yeah, so other than that, thank you for the update. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all the work you're doing. As I walk through that EOC, there's just not enough people that you can say thanks enough for. It's just tremendous to watch some people that you didn't really know that well and the positions they were in, and man, they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow, and I'm just ecstatic for so many of them. So thanks for the good work you're doing. Well, go ahead, Lisa.
One more quick question. So I came across it today. Somebody in the community had planned an event for the end of April. They're talking about bumping it for July. Do we have kind of a set timeline where we're perhaps going to be allowing those types of events to happen in our community? Like, I just don't know what I should tell somebody, if July is adequate for them to be planning, or I should just say scrap it and perhaps reschedule for next year.
Yeah, my planning window right now is about 150 days, takes us to the end of September.
Okay, perfect. That's all I needed.
And on that, the churches are all closed. Okay, so I realize it's Good Friday coming up. We're under a state of local emergency. The churches are closed.
Go ahead, Christine.
Sorry, that just sparked one. So 150 days, BCF likely will not be open, correct?
Correct.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay. So one last, Your Worship, if I may, is, we're trying to put as many barriers in front of the hospital as we can. So please, 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 people, be safe at home. Don't slip on the ice. Please try and make sure that you aren't doing anything goofy that could create a threat that takes one hospital bed away from anybody that's going to need it. And just a huge shout out to all our first responder, EMS, and healthcare staff. I just can't imagine what they're going through.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Sorry, Darwin. So one thing I constantly see on social media, I'm just wondering if you can clear the air, Dr. Ram can, in regards to testing in the town of Drumheller, there's been so many rumors stating that we're not testing here, and that's why we're coming back, as nobody's been infected in this community. I know from some of the correspondence I've seen that that's simply not the case. However, we have to follow the testing rules that are mandated by AHS, if I'm not mistaken. So can you just say, for the listening public's sake, that tests have been done or are being done if they meet the requirements under AHS?
So AHS has a huge challenge. They don't have the tests left to do all of the province of Alberta. So they've had to triage who they test and when. So they've done a really good job of consolidating that in their zones and being able to manage what it is. Ideally, we would test everyone and then test them all again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. It's just not practical and cannot happen. I believe COVID is in Drumheller. We just haven't been able to confirm it, and we need everybody to clean, 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 stay the home, and social distance.
Tom?
Yeah, this might be for Dr. Ram as well. Could you comment on the possibility of when and why patients from Calgary could be transferred to the Drumheller Hospital?
So, as part of the response for AHS, they're in the midst of still deciding where patient flow is going to go. So patient flow means not only COVID patients, but also patients that do not have COVID. Because as some of you have heard me state, it's not that during COVID, heart attacks are never going to happen and people aren't going to need their healthcare system for anything else. So that is still in the works. I know that there's lots of frustration and scared people in a lot of the hospitals, because you go into the hospital one day and this particular wing is going to be the isolation COVID wing, and then they come the next day, might be different. But AHS is working around the clock to try to set that up. Will they be coming from Calgary? If we were going to go by what our zoning did for Alberta Health Services pre-COVID, the answer technically would be no. This is a different time, so I wouldn't be able to hold that answer until COVID is gone. Will we be getting patients from Red Deer, however? That is very likely. And a very, very strong possibility. And again, I wouldn't be able to tell you at this point if it's going to be COVID patients that need to be hospitalized but don't need things like ventilators and ICUs, or if it will be non-COVID patients that will be coming to us to manage, so that Red Deer can manage the ventilated ICU patients and extra isolation wards that they're setting up like they are everyone else. And to answer Councillor Hanson-Zacharat's question, just to add to what Darwin said, we are testing. We just can't, we couldn't continue to test locally, so people just have to go to Red Deer, but we are testing. And AHS is using the address and postal codes, so it's not that they're necessarily being missed, but as Darwin said, in the grand scheme, the promise would be testing everybody if we could, we just can't. So.
Okay, well, thank you all for the update, and no other questions? Okay, we'll move on to 4.2. Tony?
So as a response, as a COVID response, which is emergency operations not only to protect residents, but business as well. The objective being that we all need to come through this, and like Darwin said, to come out the other side. So there was an initiative, the Economic Development Task Force, which was pulled together by council. Bob Shetty also was involved with that, along with Michelle. And the idea of that team coming together was to streamline so many programs and so many changing details that were evolving at various levels of government, that being the federal and the provincial and the municipal. And our objective there was to pull together our professionals within our community, the accountants and the lawyers, and have a central suppository of information to help people walk through some of these programs. So Ascend stepped forward, Ascend Financial along with MNP, Community Futures, and MH Enterprises, and our legal counsel of Colin Clute to kind of provide some guidance on to locals, business and residents on navigating some of these programs. So with the cooperation of the chamber, we pulled that all together and posted those contacts on their sites, the town sites, with the objective that we could drive the local residents' business to these sources of expertise to answer their questions, guide them through applications, processes, changing rules, and everything else. So that did get pulled together and it did get launched, but again, quickly morphed into something bigger than that.
So we went back, we had a consolidated list of businesses operating within our community, and a pilot project of 100 personal hand-touch phone calls was made with MNP out of Red Deer, who we had to commission some of their labor resources to get that done. Alarmingly, the results coming back from that, it is a third of that 100 sampling list indicated immediate assistance was required. So again, we circled back and made sure that they had received phone numbers, emails, contacts, that they were going to be put in touch with these people immediately. With privacy and stuff, though, we can't really follow up whether they did call or didn't call. But we have continued to reach out to the rest of the business to offer these resources to them, and maybe you can update us, Darwin, as to where we're at with the rest of the business.
So we're going to continue to do our outreach through the resources of MNP and do it with immediacy and get some names for our coaches and you know, if we bump into the rules a little bit, we don't want to throw the rule book away, but we've got to move with speed to help these folks and get them availing themselves of the assistance that's out there. So not only the business, but some of the not-for-profits, the FCSS grants, and individuals, we're going to bundle that all together into the Economic Task Force so that we can really help. Just driving over here, the rules got totally changed with employment and shift notices to deadlines and lengths of things. So again, I think we can use that team to really navigate that and continue to march forward. Michelle, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that, please? Okay.
So we'll continue trying to reach out to business. We'd encourage them to follow the resources that we've put in place. These are all experts in accounting and legal. There's a lot of anxiety out there as well, so you need to reach out. I can see that after this is done, it'll probably morph into something else as the federal and the provincial governments come out with recovery programs that are probably going to be following to get business up and running again too. So that's another whole leg that we need to prepare for, I think, going forward. Any questions? Lisa?
So, with the nature of my occupation, I've had numerous discussions with people about business interruption and where to direct people to. Even this afternoon, I had 3 specific businesses in the town of Drumheller. And what do I tell them? Is there one phone number that they can call in? Do they call the Chamber of Commerce? Who's on point? Like, rather than your committee reaching out to them, is there not a way I can direct them and drive them to where they need to go?
Okay, we did put in place the accounting firm, so I guess the nature of the question is what kind of resource are they looking for? Is it a legal opinion? Is it an accounting expertise? Is it direction? Is it a program?
So what I'm hoping, Tony, is that, say, either the Chamber of Commerce or Community Futures can be the point man and then direct it from there, right? Because, I mean, a lot of my clients have not just legal, but financial, like there's more than one. So I think for ease of doing the program, it might be nice to have one contact point rather than, you know, oh, well, I tried Ascend, but I couldn't get through, so then I tried MNP. It'd be nice, the one point of contact, and then you can start to also log it, right? Because they're calling you.
So there's some challenges with capacity at the chamber, challenges with privacy laws, et cetera, to achieve that. And I wouldn't argue that that would be ideal, but we can't get there entirely from here. So what we have on the drumheller.ca is the economic recovery page. The Drumheller Mail on Wednesday will have a large ad trying to drive people to those solutions and where they can go. So it's
And the chamber page, it's also listed there as well, yeah.
Yeah, I just brought it up, Lisa. If they go to drumhellerchamber.com, it says Drumheller COVID-19 Economic Recovery Task Force. It lists all the government things, all the contacts, the Sand Community Futures, Clute, Town of Drum, so it lists everything right there. So it is kind of one contact, one source there for them to reach out.
And again, they'd be encouraged to pick from whoever they're comfortable talking to make that call, and to, whether it's program information, whether it's an application process, whether it's advice, whether it's, I don't know what to do, where do I start? Any of those questions are those point men are there to answer.
Okay, perfect. So I just don't want them thinking, well, if I'm calling, say, a SEND or MNP, that they're just calling for advice on that financial aspect of the accounting, right?
Yeah.
I want them to know that they're given the full meal deal, right?
Yeah.
Of guidance. Okay.
And I think to Darwin's point, if you made me the point man, they all called me and then I directed them, that's where your privacy issues come into place. It is their choice. It is, their call to make, and we've put up the information. We're encouraging them to use it. These guys are there. They've stepped up in the community to help. Let them help. Okay.
Yeah, just to extend on that, I talked to MH Enterprises today, and they're getting a lot of, like, somebody will call an accountant and then they'll direct them. So I think everybody's helping each other. So. Go ahead, Jay.
Tom had his hand up first. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm not used to looking at that side of the table. Sorry, we'll sit over
Sitting
the other
over here
side.
with all my friends.
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to mention is that the intention of this is for individuals, for businesses, but it is also for nonprofit organizations. And I don't know if that message has got out there very well. Do you know of any nonprofits? Like I've been kind of spreading the word a little bit, but do you know of any nonprofits that have started into this process at all?
Again, due to the privacy concerns, we are not knowledgeable of anybody who has followed up. But yes, nonprofits, charitable, business, and individual, there's programs for everybody. So best thing for a charitable or a nonprofit is to call and say, what's available for me? How do I go about it? Whether it be a grant or just they need to make the contact.
And just because this chamber site is very well done, I just clicked on a thing that said emergency funding for charities and not-for-profit organizations, and it's got all the PDFs and everything right there. So go ahead, Jay.
Thank you, Your Worship. So because the focus so quickly became the business community, I want to be crystal clear. Have we communicated to the public that this support, this information and referral, hopefully this one-stop shop to help them figure out what they could apply for and how to go about doing that, is that being clearly and repeatedly offered to individual members of the public? Are we there yet? Yes?
Yeah, I believe it was covered in the communication. So,
Excellent, excellent.
And that's our involvement with MH Enterprises, is they're really strong on the personal side, where the accountants are equally strong on the personal side, but on business as well. And then Colin Clute is able to cover all aspects of advice there.
Excellent. I think we, in a lot of ways, as much as it's imperative that we do what we can, we have to beg everyone's patience. I mean, a lot of the systems are swamped. A lot of the 1-800 numbers are swamped. But things are working too. I have some anecdotal experiences this morning hearing from people who, because of their birth month, were able to apply for the Canada Emergency Relief Benefit and did so smoothly and easily first thing this morning, both by telephone and online. So some things are starting to work. I think we have to beg everyone's patience to allow that even though they feel they need an answer yesterday, getting an answer tomorrow or the next day is going to have to suffice for some of this. But they will get answers so long as they're patient. The federal government is doing their level best every day. They roll out some more information about a population that got missed in the last round of planning and programming. That's going to take some time. And one of the things that I want to make sure that we don't miss is that with all this frustration, it is the normal breeding ground for hopelessness. And so when we were having our conversations with Bob Shetty, wherever you are, you troublemaker, stop flashing that thing in my eyes, who's just done yeoman's work on a lot of these things, that we were really clear about making sure that those contact points had the crisis line numbers at their fingertips, because there is a lot of anger and frustration and hopelessness. And because of that, I'm hoping that someone in planning is making preparations to ask for significantly increased funding to our subsidized counseling program, and retasking the people that we have under contract to provide that service to move to a tele-counseling format. I'd love to see us quadruple the funding that we've made available to that, and have that sort of funding, because losing people to COVID is going to be bad enough. Losing people to hopelessness can actually be stopped if we just provide enough resources. And I'm not 100% convinced we're all the way there yet. So I hope that planning is working on it and the council's ready to fund it.
Your Worship, I'd like to add that we need people to help each other, help themselves. And folks that have never been on UI before, or EI, find somebody that does it annually as part of their work cycle, and help navigate through the system. Get those phone numbers off the website, out of the newspaper, and make it like a Jerry Lewis telethon. Ring those phones, reach out and do that. And Councillor Garbett, absolutely, we need to really lean into that tele support. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? I look all both sides. All right, I will thank you all again and call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.